I thought I had just gotten over the hump. I had gotten to where I wanted to be, and I had worked so hard for the future to make it so I could relax and spend, extra time with her. And then, and even started the process. I knew there was issues and knew that I wasn't spending enough time with her, but I got the biggest project of my life done. December 1st, got that house rented out and got to the point to where I didn't need to work anymore. I was going to work because I wanted to, but not because I needed to.
Yep.
And then February 1st was her birthday, and she hit me with, I think I want a divorce. So at first she thought she's bipolar. She's got depression issues, anxiety issues, all that stuff. She's like, this might just be one of my manic episodes. Might just because it's my birthday, so on and so forth. So we kind of relaxed for a little bit. I kind of took it with a grain of salt. And then 2 weeks later, said the same thing again. She's like, I want a divorce. So she had already been talking to another guy for 3 or 4 months. I found out later.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And you guys have been married for how long?
Married the end of this month, May 31st will be 17 years, but we've been together for 22. So
that how long ago was that when you joined the program? I don't recall how long you've been in.
March 16th.
Okay. So a little bit less than 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So about 6 weeks, actually. Six
Yeah.
now. Okay. So the next thing I want to know is just like from that, we'll look at what you did to get to where you're at now, but let's kind of jump forward to like how things are now, how things have changed in those 6 weeks.
I've become a different person 4 or 5 times since then, and each one has gotten better than
Shedding
the
like
last.
transformation, is shedding off your parts of your ego, who you are.
Yeah, like a reptile, growing,
Yeah.
So
In what ways, like how have you changed? Like what's been going on?
just my whole thought process, how I feel about her, how I feel about the marriage, where the blame lies, where, my confidence, my just everything. And just every day, it's like a new chapter opening up, and each version that comes out of that is a little bit better, So that book, the No More Mr. Nice Guy, was a complete eye opener for me too. I read that in 2 days, in 2 sittings actually. So it was
You're like, that's me.
come to find out I'm the nicest guy to ever exist.
Yeah. I think I felt the same way when I read it. So like, yeah, I know, build yourself up a little bit. Like what have been some positive changes now? Like speak to it a little bit.
For one, like the biggest realization I had and what really kicked me off was that I've been living inside of a box since I was 10 years old. I was severely bullied, and mainly because of not only the demographics was like psychologically the worst case scenario for me, but I was an overly sensitive kid, went from a big town private Christian school to a small town public school in between 4th and 5th grade. And I had issues with crying. So I got beat up all the time for crying. Like literally every day I was in a fight. And long story short, school didn't know what to do with me. Parents didn't know what to do with me. So they stuck me in the poor kids program, working in the lunchroom to get free lunch for my parents. And so I was off the playground, not getting beat up, which just made it even worse because now I'm the poor kid that's hiding in the lunchroom to not get beat up.
Yeah.
So the only self-defense I had was don't cry anymore. They'll stop beating you up if you don't cry anymore. And the only way I could do that was shutting all my emotions off.
There you go.
And it was the one of your first videos about looking, finding the root of your problems. It actually led me to that because I kept, okay, why did I do this? Okay, well, why did I do that? And then the common denominator always led back to that 5th grade me, hiding inside that box. And something she said and did broke me out of that box finally. It was right before she took off for New Orleans for her separation and visiting her daughter that we were both completely lost, didn't know what was going on. And at one point I said, I started trying to make things better all the way back in December. Why all of a sudden in February are you telling me you want a divorce? And she said, because it was too late. And I took that for what she said, not for what she meant, which was, yeah, it was already past that point, but there's still hope, was what she actually meant. And I thought she meant I made my decision. It's too late. I'm going to New Orleans, and I didn't, that shattered that outside wall that I had built up. And the best analogy I came up with was every time an emotion came in, it kind of broke down that wall or broke that pane of glass. And then I would just quickly go out and build another one to protect all that stuff on the inside. And so I went out, I was out in the garage freaking out, thinking, trying to throwing shit away that I wanted, but would probably never use, just trying to learn to let go. And I was making supper at the same time. Came in when it was just about done, pulled it out of the oven, came downstairs and said, supper's done. I'm going to switch the laundry. I'll bring you down some food. And she said, okay, baby, thanks. I love you. And I hadn't built up a new wall yet. So that emotion that came in, that flip, within a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it was, I completely lost it, completely broke down. And went up in my daughter's room, cried, like ugly cried for about an hour, couldn't stop. And I said, I got to calm down. I got to go take a shower. But the only problem was all my shower stuff was in our bathroom still. So I have to walk right past her to get to it. And sure enough, she saw me bawling like a bitch. And she started asking me, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I kept trying to hide and say, nothing, nothing, nothing. And finally she stopped me and said, tell me what's wrong. And I told her, the emotional flip that she had just done for me. And I was expecting her to beat me up for it. And she didn't. She actually cried with me. And later on, I realized that was the first time in the 22 years we've been together that she's seen me cry.
Wow.
And I told my dad about the situation too. And he says, you know what? I don't think I've seen you cry since 4 or 5 years old when your dog got ran over with a car.
Tell me the meaning of that experience for you to be able to share that emotion. Like, I know it was hard, but like, what does it mean for you moving forward?
Well, it's more than just that experience. It's that now I've it's broken down all those walls that I had. And now there's that 10-year-old boy standing there in the middle, and I have to decide, okay, am I going to build these walls back up? Or am I going to man up? And every time I deal with one of these emotions, throw some of that rubble away, take the good parts out of all this stuff and make something of myself, or am I just going to continue to hide?
Right. That strategy of, bottling it up, even though you weren't going to die when you're being beat up as a kid or like being bullied, like your younger self felt that way. So you had to learn that only strategy to literally save your own life is to bottle up those emotions. And your subconscious brain doesn't know when you're with your wife, when she's criticizing you, she's not a bully, but your brain doesn't know that. You feel like you're being attacked. So you do the same thing. But to her, she's like, I feel disconnected from this guy. Like, I don't know what he's feeling right now. And women crave that emotional connection, right? And so being able to overcome that self, man, walk me through some of the positive changes that's happened since you've been able to really tap into that.
The confidence. I can finally be confident. I can finally be fearless.
What other positive impacts have happened maybe in the relationship or with yourself since this has begun?
Now she's saying if instead of when. We're still buying stuff for us when for a long time she was buying stuff for her. She's feeling a lot more safe around me. I can tell. We're definitely stage 3 now. And with some hour-long jumps up into 5.
Wait, say that. Well, for those that don't understand that, what does that mean?
There's been a few intimate moments. So, and I chalk some of that up to she's pregnant, so she's got those. And she was completely insatiable when she was pregnant before. So,
well, and I hear a lot of guys saying this, and yes, that is probably a factor. But if she didn't feel safe enough with you to do that, she wouldn't, right?
Yeah, wanted to try that out.
Okay,
and she's openly been testing to see if there's spark again.
Can I actually call something out that you've done that a lot of guys struggle with? Maybe you don't see it as important, or maybe you just haven't thought of it. Can I say it? Your ability to forgive her Awesome. Right. So like one last question I'd like to ask guys before we wrap up is just if you could give a piece of advice to yourself, like let's say 9 weeks ago before you got into the program, like 3 weeks before the program even, what's one thing yourself now would have to, what's one thing your past self would need to hear that you can give him now as a piece of advice?
Probably, I think probably the biggest thing that would have made the most impact would give her space.
Give her
Not
space.
just not just physical space, not just but emotional, spiritual, every kind of space. Because
Mhm.
that was my misunderstanding in the beginning. I was giving her physical space, but nothing else, and that really pushed her into going to New Orleans. So
Yeah. There you go.
it would be. She even told me the other day when we were driving back from New York, that the only reason me and her are not back together right now, is because of the baby.
Mm.
And she said that there was things we need to work on, definitely romance. But yeah, we'd be back together.